Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all joining in. Very punctual crowd today. Thanks for being here. All right. Well, as you saw, we are recording this session. We'll be putting it up for anyone who couldn't attend or needs a review. Welcome to the online info session for the Rapid Stimulus Grant for Food Systems Transformation. I'm Julia Gelman. I'm the Manager of Community Food Development here at PHABC. And I'm really grateful to be joining you all today and working to support the amazing work that you're all doing in Northern BC to support food security. So thanks for being here. I'll also have my teammate Margot introduce herself. Margot, if you'd like to say hi.
Hi, everyone. It's great to meet you. I'm also here with PHABC, supporting Julia in this work with the Rapid Stimulus Grant. Usually joining from the Tsimshian territory up in northern BC. Today, I'm grateful to be joining from Jabuktuk, which is a new word for me, over on the East Coast today on Mi'kmaq territory.
Thank you, Margot. And yes, I wanted to acknowledge as well that while this work is in support of Northern BC, I'm joining from the traditional unceded territory of the Lekwungen peoples, now known as the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations. And, in our food systems work, it's important to ground it in the land and in the communities that have stewarded our foodways for time immemorial. And I'm acknowledging that there's a lot of colonial structures in our food systems that create barriers to that Indigenous food sovereignty. And in this work and the work that we're continuing to do, I'd like to empower and uplift and revitalize those connections. So if you'd like to add to the chat the territory that you're joining from, that's more than welcome. It's just great to see you all here and do this work together. All right, I think we can go to our agenda and just give you a bit of an overview of what we're going to do today. We'll introduce and welcome you all. We'll go over the details of the grant, and then we'll explore some of the ways we're thinking about food systems and transformation, because that's kind of a new approach that we're taking. And then I'll go over the application portal, some next steps, and hopefully we'll have some time for Q&A. You're welcome. Also, if we don't get to your specific question, you're welcome to send it to me separately and we can discuss your particular project as needed. All right, go to the next slide. Thank you. So this is the Rapid Stimulus Grant for Food Systems Transformation. It's a partnership between Public Health Association of BC and Food Banks BC, and we're being supported by the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction. And this is a one-time grant for nonprofits and First Nations in Northern BC to advance transformation in the food system. So we did some work over the last year or two on the Resilient North report, which maybe some of you were a part of. And that was a lot of work, just relationship building in the region and hearing from community what the needs were of different food access organizations. And we really heard a lot that there was a need for capacity, more collaboration and coordination, and more opportunities to advance systems change. So that was kind of the groundwork that was laid to implement this grant. And we're really hoping that will give you the chance to, knowing that so many of these organizations are under-resourced, we're really trying to provide that capacity to think differently about the work that you're doing, make new connections, reflect on our work, and just build a more sustainable, resilient, equitable, and just food system in Northern BC. We can go to the next slide. And also just feel free, Margot will be monitoring the chat as we go. So if you have any quick questions as we go through, feel free to put them there. And again, we'll have some time at the end with specifics if you have questions. And thanks all for putting in your locations. I love seeing that we're all connecting from a large region. All right, so eligible organizations are ones that are located in Northern BC. So that is within the Northern Health Authority region. there is a map, and I'll share it on the next slide, but I'll also put the map in the chat here that you can reference. Oh, I think that worked. Yeah, that you can reference if you're curious where you need to be located for this grant. Oh, and for the Resilient North report, it's actually not yet published. We brought our drafted recommendations to the communities that engaged in the reporting and had a feedback session. And now it's actually with the ministry. And once it's all been approved on their side, we'll be publishing it. So if you're, I mean, you'll be on our circulation list because everybody who received my email for this grant should be on our list. But if you're concerned you're not on my list, please put your email in the chat and I can make sure that you receive the report as it gets published. So nonprofits, First Nations, and other qualified donees are eligible for this grant. And on the next slide, you can see the area in blue is the area that's served by the Northern Health Authority region. And again, this was informed by the Resilient North work and the needs based in the North. We are doing some work elsewhere in the province and have another list if you want to be on the cross-provincial list and are not located in the North. We'll have some other projects and engagements there too. All right, next slide. Just an overview of the grant. The applications are open now and will be open until April 19th. You can edit them as you go. Once you click submit, you can't edit them, but you can go into the portal and come back and make edits. The project budgets are for anywhere between $5,000 and $25,000. And in an effort to be as low barrier and inclusive as possible, we're being transparent with the budget. We have $650,000 to give out, which is hopefully around 40 projects funded. We've also made the rubric for how we'll be evaluating your applications public. I'll also put that in the chat. It's on our website, on the Rapid Stimulus Grant website at the bottom. You can find the rubric that we'll be using to review applications. And diverse application methods are welcome. So if you don't feel comfortable with the written application, feel free to reach out to me and arrange for a phone call or a video submission, or propose another method, and that's okay too. So those are the details of the grant. And if on the next slide, you'll see some examples of projects that you may pose with this grant. So it can be a new or existing project or program supporting food systems transformation and community food security. It can also be a project that has a start date and an end date. So whether it's ongoing or discrete, they're all eligible. And again, we're really focusing on that systems redesign and thinking. So in that systems redesign category, some examples might be that you're diversifying your model, you're rethinking food procurement, whether that's recapturing or more connections with local growers. You might be connecting with other organizations to increase your purchasing power. Those are some examples of what systems redesign projects might be. And some examples of organizational planning might be a fundraising plan, communications and outreach strategy. We know that volunteer retention is a challenge for a lot of organizations. So coming up with a strategy to recruit or retain volunteers, really any of that kind of more internal reflection work or cross collaboration work as well. And here's a list of some more examples. All right. So eligible expenses. This is a list of eligible expenses. I will note that food and capital costs are not eligible expenses. Again, with this grant, we're really hoping to support your organizations and projects in the time that is required to pursue greater capacity or collaboration or reflection. So for those of you that are hoping that this grant can pay for a salary, so that you can purchase more food, I would encourage you to continue to frame the project with a systems change lens, just so that we know that this grant is supporting work that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do, that you're thinking differently. Yes, fresh food supplements for hampers. That would be, oh, sorry. That would be more like determining a contract for the fresh food. So that's a systems redesign because it's creating a new relationship maybe with a local farmer, or it's finding locally produced food. We can talk if you have a food cost proposal, you can reach out, but generally we are trying to stay away from the food funding and focus more on the system and the way that we are operating in the system. All right, so for, again, the evaluation of the applications on the next slide, you'll see a list of the 5 things that we're looking at as we review applications. So again, the rubric is available on our website. And this is how the review panel will be looking for and grading the project proposals. We'll get more into the systems design approach and what that really means further down the line here. So here we are, we're already there. This is just a little background on some of the concepts that we're talking about. And again, I have a link I'll share. These are all available on the Rapid Stimulus Grant website, but this is just resources as we go. The thing I'm sending now in the chat is a little bit of a description that can support how we are talking about the systems change in the work that you're doing, and then in the way that we're evaluating it as it goes as well. So a food system is looking at the whole picture of all food activities, its relationships and interconnectedness. Community food security is going a little bit deeper than just household food insecurity. We're looking at the underlying factors that affect access to food. And the last is food systems transformation, transforming the mainstream food system to be more just, equitable, sustainable, and resilient. So the next slide you'll see, this is a working theory of change that we've been working on to try to kind of ground this work and be able to explain what systems change really is and what work is contributing to that. So we've put it into 4 categories, 4 kind of stages, knowing that the boundaries are fluid, that none of us are just in one of these stages, but it can help support your application, give you some language to identify where in the system your project or your organization is working. So the seeding stage is more of that internal organizational work, and the germinating stage is more about the strengthening of relationships, being accountable. The growing stage is about building and working together in relationships, so maybe leveling up those connections that you have. And then rooting is more of the taking action, impacting the sector, and collaborating for greater change. So this is one of the questions in the application, and we encourage you to just kind of try to locate your project or your organization where you're at in this process. It's not hierarchy. We're all at a different place in the system, and it's all going to be, I think, going to contribute to systems change on a whole. And then I have the next slide also shares a visual that I like. It's just another way of thinking about the levels of food systems transformation, whether we're working at the individual level, either for the end users, accommodating those needs better, or building staff capacity. That would count as like individual. And then organizational capacity and impact is the second level. The third would be those greater external connections and relationships, maybe more resources being shared. And then the last would be maybe influencing policy or impacting the whole system strengthening our social movements. So these are just some things for you to think about when you're thinking about how your project advances food systems transformation. All right. Hope this is an okay speed for everyone. If yeah, we'll get to questions. I feel like I'm going fast. All right. This is just a little navigation support with the application portal. If you go to our website, there are a few of these buttons apply now throughout the website, and that'll take you to our portal. And so you have to create a username, an account, like a password, and you'll register. And then once you're in, you can go to the next slide. Thank you. Yes, this is the same portal that Food Banks BC uses. So you could use your old account, and then you should just see this next window show up if you've already applied through that portal in the past through Food Banks BC. So you'll get to this window and then you'll press apply. This is for the Rapid Stimulus Grant for Food Systems Transformation. All right, so you can go to the next slide. Yeah, as I mentioned, as you're working on your application, there'll be a button on the bottom that'll say save and continue. And so you can use that button as you work through the application so that you don't lose your work. You can also add collaborators to the project, as you can see here on the left. But you'll mostly be working in this red circle in the application form. And then there is an external, if you want to prepare your application before you're in the portal, you can work on it. We have a Word document template that you can work off of, and then you can just transfer all your information, if that's your preference, into the portal. But I do encourage you to get familiar with the portal before the deadline, just in case anything comes up and you have issues. Okay, so you can go to, the next one. This is the budget template, which is also available on our website. You can use it to upload a high-level budget for what you're proposing. There are details in each cell that explains how to project your expenses. And we know that the actual details and costs may change on delivery. We're not going to be asking for receipts at the end. We will be asking for a financial report at the end of the project, a year from when the funding goes out. But just to project the budget, this is what will be useful for you. You can also upload any other files in that section. There's like a button to upload files. So if you think that there's any documents you'd like for us to see, that would be the place to do that. I'm linking to the budget template in the chat again. All right, I think we can go to the next slide. So I've circled here the preview because that's how, once you've been working on the application, you'll be able to see the whole thing in its entirety. So you can click on those three dots to either preview it or rename it. So if, like me, I just made like a test project title at first, you can always change it if you want to change it. Once you've hit submit, though, you won't be able to edit anymore. So as I recommended, you can open it earlier in the process, just get familiar but work on the document, the template, if you like, on your own. So it should be pretty straightforward. And then once we've closed the portal, we'll have a panel of reviewers that'll be assessing. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Kay, we can help you with that for sure. So in April, May, we'll be reviewing the applications. And then in May, we'll be making decisions. In June, we'll be dispersing the funds. And so it's a 1 year timeline. If you end up needing extra time to complete it to the fall of 2025, we can accept reports until then. But it is intended as kind of a 1 year. And we'll be checking in midterm in the fall to see how things are going. And in general, we'll also have Margot and myself will be available to support, to a certain extent, implementation or coordination as projects need. So yeah, like I said, we're trying to come from a community-based place and build relationships with you all and hear how things are going. And really just support the work that you think is the most impactful. So that's the timeline. We'll have templates that will go out for reporting upon receiving the grant, so you'll know what you're actually being asked to report on. And then just a couple kind of future steps and other opportunities with the work that we're doing with PHABC and Food Banks BC. We have, how I think of it, is kind of 3 levels of support. We have like smaller scale support through this grant, and then mid-scale support through the Ideas Lab, and then larger scale support through these large scale innovation projects. So I'll just tell you a little bit more about those other opportunities. They're not out yet, but I know some of you have been inquiring if it would be appropriate for your projects. So I'll give a little bit more information here. The Ideas Lab is to start in May, and it'll be an 18-month program where champions from multi-sectoral spaces can get together and innovate together on a solution to a problem in the food system that they've identified. So we'll be hosting a handful of online sessions. We'll be providing tools and resources along with some advising support and coordination support, as well as seed funding to support those projects. And we'll be dividing the regions into Northwest, North Central, and Northeast. But that one's also about capacity building, but more with that kind of like networking, resource sharing, skill building, and cross-sectoral collaboration. We'll also have some in-person gatherings with that program, which is nice. And then the large-scale innovation projects, it's only going to be a partnership with 2 organizations, and it's a similar timeline. It's about 18 months, and it'll be a large-scale project that innovates on the local food system and that can be scaled elsewhere or replicated in the province. So some examples for that might be on the growing side, like greenhouses or geodesic domes or vertical agriculture, or it could also be on more of the access side, like a co-op grocery store model, or even from the production side, like abattoirs and clam gardens. And so we're open to that. We're in the process of having conversations with organizations that have a project that they think would be a good fit for that one. So both of these streams, if you think you're interested, reach out to me and we can have further conversations. But yeah, knowing that today is mostly about the grant and that might be what's most appropriate for each of you, I just wanted to touch on those other opportunities a little bit too. All right. Look how speedy. We have half the session if people have questions. And if people want me to go back, I similarly feel like maybe I went too fast. So if you want me to go back to a slide, let me know. But if somebody wants to raise their hand if they have a question, we could go that way or put it in the chat.
Excuse me, just while everyone's thinking of their questions or putting them down, there was a question that came through wondering if the slide deck specifically is going to be shared or if it's just going to be shared through the recording.
I could do both. Yeah.
I have a question. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Kate.
So under the systems redesign, I think our project might fall under that, where we have a greenhouse already started up there. where there's some beds growing vegetables already, but we need plumbing so that she could access, you know, the water right there with a sink to wash the vegetables where she hands out the vegetables. Would that fall under our systems redesign?
So so the two ineligible kind of expenses are food and capital infrastructure. So plumbing is a bit of a gray area, I suppose, because we can service utilities and those kinds of payments. So I think that one, we could probably talk more, you and I, about how to maneuver that. And again, it needs to just support a systems change piece. So I know that so many of us are like, all we can ever think about is the operational needs because we're all in like reactivity. We need to solve food insecurity, but we're really trying to just like give people a bit of capacity to think a bit beyond just those immediate operational needs, which doesn't mean we can't fund the operational needs. We just need to also like frame how those needs are going to help us think bigger, I
We need
guess.
to start at operational needs in order to produce the food to hand out to take care of the poverty issues that we're facing.
Absolutely. I know. For sure.
Okay, we'll talk about that. But I had one more question before, because maybe others might be interested in this question too. Under the, I think it was community design or something, we got in contact with a farm that offered us crates of berries that we can give to the elders so that they could jar them like they used to. You know, back, you know, before residential school came along and destroyed our ways of life. So the berry bushes, they're like gone. So would we be able to purchase those berries to give to the elders under the fresh food supplement for hampers? Because they do
Yeah.
get hampers of vegetables and fruit, so we could just order crates so they could be taken care of all winter and take care of themselves. You know how much healing would take place if, you know, these crates of berries showed up at their door for them to work on.
I think so in the budget, there's a project materials category. So for those who have food or questions around cost eligibility, I would just encourage you to reach out to me directly, like whether like I think that's probably going to be a common question. And I do think we can fund a small portion of the grant can go towards those food costs and plant materials and that kind of thing. It's just primarily focused on salaries, time, resourcing those physical pieces.
All right, maybe I'll reach out to you.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Margot, do you want to pick the next person? Because I'm not sure
Yeah,
who is.
absolutely. I'm just going to go through the list here with folks who have their hands up. So I'm going to unmute Scott next.
Hi there. We just got a food security grant through NDIT, and it has improving food systems, building skills and knowledge with community members, and providing individual outreach supports for existing food bank members. One of the requirements for this grant is that we need some matching funding for it. So would the rapid stimulus grant, could that be used as a small part of matching funds for this existing program that we're just getting off the ground?
Yeah, so even in our budget template, you'll see a question around, do you have other funders for this project? And I think that's a common question. So if the other application's asking you for that, if they allow like a pending option, we have a pending or confirmed option. So you can just indicate that you've applied for this one and it's pending. I think
Okay.
that's kind of how they ask for matching usually.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go through the rest of the raised hands in the folks who have their hands raised, and then I've noticed some questions coming in the chat, so we'll jump to those after. But next, we're going to go to Karen. Go ahead, Karen.
Hi, apologies. Our computer doesn't actually have a camera, so I can't put the video on. I work for Northern Lamplighters in Fort Nelson, and we're actually a seniors activity center, but many seniors expressed to me their concerns about food security. There was an experience a couple years ago where there was a bridge out south of us on the Alaska Highway, and for 3 weeks, there were no trucks coming up the highway. Yeah, it was closed. Just one road in and out of this community. And and then last summer with the forest fires, we're really interested in looking at food systems and how to, I've already just put in a tiny grant, it's only $6,000 for to create a local food resource directory. I won't know for another 6 weeks whether we get that, but we would like to, I'm looking at this grant in terms of how to work with our local producers to increase local food capacity. It seems to me like that's a good fit. I'm curious because we're a seniors organization, like whether we fit within you. We are a registered charity and of course a nonprofit with BC Societies. Thank you.
Yes, that's definitely an eligible project and organization. This is not just for food banks members or anything like that. It's meant to be for anyone working on food security work. So that's a wide net.
Okay.
Yeah, and even like the Ideas Lab might be an possible future direction if you are trying to do more local production pathways. If you have some producers who want to be a part of creating some new pathway, that might be another route. But yes, this grant would be
Great.
Yeah, targeted for that.
Okay, and thank you for that perfect segue, because I'm also on the Agriculture Steering Committee for the Fort Nelson First Nations. They're working with Tudeka Geothermal to build some greenhouses. The first one will be built this summer by Challow School. And I was thinking, oh, maybe like we can partner with them to look more broadly at food production in the area. So I'll reach out to you about the Ideas Lab separate from this discussion. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Nicole with a question.
Hi, I'm Nicole Campbell with NSBA Health Services. My question is that I often hear from my supervisor, our health director. Do you have capacity to fulfill the reporting, the putting it through all these other kind of jobs and tasks? Meanwhile, I've got all my capacity, it's already maxed, because one of the absolute things for me to do is to juggle 5 jobs at once. And that's what I can safely say for a lot of First Nations organizations, myself. And so I'm worried about the reporting. Can I physically take this on and carve out another, it seems like a small task for you, put a, little 2-pager report. Meanwhile, I'm out there doing 5 other things that day and I'm scrambling at the end and losing my marbles. So can you give me a picture of what that would look like?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I really, honestly, I'm taking input because I want it to be we want it to be community-based and participatory. So if you want to have a phone call with me, let's do that. You know, we might need I might have to ask you some questions like about how many
Yeah.
people you think you served, and I might want some photos because that is amazing and helps kind of keep this funding going because that's what the
Sure.
government likes to see. So there's a little bit of a threading the needle happening, but I really do want you all to feel empowered to do the work that you already know makes a difference. We believe in you.
It's really great to hear that because like when taking it on, I'm like, yeah, great. It sounds in theory and I really want to do it. But at the end of the day, when I have to do a 2-3 page report followed by statistics and numbers and who's all there, I don't have time, honestly. So I'm really glad that that's accommodating to helping us get this out.
And that's for the reporting, but also for the application. Like if you would rather talk it through, then we can do that too. So yeah, reach out and we want to try to make it as low barrier as possible.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see anyone else with their hand up, but if you do want to ask a question verbally, please feel free to just pop your hand up. In the meantime, I'm going to go over to the chat. And a couple comments and questions have come in through here. So from Michelle, she's saying, if you want to expand skills in community through cooking classes, you need to buy food for that. Would we need to source funds for the food part and use these funds for the time of workers, space rental, etc.?
So I think the general idea is yes, try to minimize the food costs and maximize the personnel costs in your proposal. If you have a larger food need, reach out to me and we can talk about it. But it is really about kind of the educate in this example, it would be more around the skills that the community is building, the education that's being enhanced. So the focus of the funding and the project should be there. But yes, I recognize that food costs money. Does that answer your question, Michelle? Or you can just come off of mute if you need follow-ups.
Yep, it did.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Okay, the next question coming up in the chat from Jan, they're asking, would a project similar to Meals on Wheels to deliver healthy meals, including culturally appropriate foods to people living in a remote, rural, indigenous community, for a plan include costing and community engagement on what they would like to have provided, how often deliveries of fresh/warm food and healthy frozen meals would be for elders and those struggling with food security. Also a strategy to ensure food is safe being transported warmly.
Yeah, I think this definitely falls under a systems redesign development. Absolutely. This is the intention of the grant for sure.
Another question coming through from that, and they're asking, in terms of projects with cross-regional connections, my work spans the Caribou from PG south to Cache Creek, looking at policy frameworks for increasing on-farm processing facilities. Would this be ineligible because this work is only for the quote north?
Oh, I see. Right. I think there's a question in the grant application that says how large is your radius? Whether it's like just the neighborhood or larger scale. So I think you can probably put it there. It might depend on your head office, honestly, at that point. Maybe reach out and we can talk more about that. Because I have been getting people in other health regions, like interior, that's kind of in the north asking, but it is the boundary that we have been set with. So maybe reach out to me and we can talk about how to best propose your project.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any other raised hands or anyone unmuted, and nothing else in the chat so far. Oh, we've got a raised hand from Nicole. I'm going to unmute you there, Nicole. Oh, you're already unmuted.
All right,
Nicole.
I have one other question. So like, let's say my mind is just racing on, you know, options and opportunities that we have. Is there opportunities? I know you were disclosing that there's 650 or whatever, and like, let's say we only know that it's only going to reach out and you're probably only going to pump out maybe 450K. Would there be opportunities for other communities to reach out and try to apply for other opportunities and other, you know, ideas that they may have?
You mean after this funding cycle is done, like after April 19th?
Yeah.
Well, I think we're looking at what the demand is like and what the asks are like. This is a one-time funding as it stands right now, but I'm definitely trying to stay in conversation with people to hear what the needs are. So yeah, if people have future ideas, we can try to help direct or try to help support. Yeah.
I think that's why we're so crazy, is because like if we get more stuff coming in, I'm taking it and I'm running with it. And I'm gonna do 5 other projects. That's why I'm just asking, like, if there's more opportunities, like I'll, you know, I could do so much with it, you know? So I'm just asking that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See that Karen has a question again. Go ahead, Karen.
I just thought of one specific detail. So one senior I was speaking with this morning said, oh, do you think we can find funding to like help build raised beds for existing gardeners so that they can increase their personal food production capacity, but also recognizing as we're all aging, that for some to garden in the, you know, like round, raised beds become easier, I guess, as people with different physical capacities. So I heard the not capital, but I'm wondering if there's a way to look at those kinds of supports as well, or maybe this is part of my talk to you about the Ideas Lab.
Yeah, I think this is similar to the question around education, like food for education programs. There's going to be some material costs associated with a lot of these programs. So I think it's just a matter of keeping and it might come to the point where we create like a percentage limit or something. If there's a lot of capital costs or food costs that people are asking for, we might say, okay, we've capped it at this amount of your total project. But we're trying to kind of stay flexible and open to your project's needs. So creating less of those rules, I think is good. But again, we can just be in conversation about, because you're building skills and you're building access. And so those are all within the vision of the grant. It's just a matter of keeping the capital and food costs not as the dominant proposal. That makes sense.
Thank you.
Another question coming through from Catherine in the chat. They're asking, how long is the large scale project? If the small is 12 months, medium is 18 months. I missed the point. Thank you.
Yes. So the small, yeah, you got it. Small is 12 months, medium is 18 months, and large scale is 18 months as well.
Julia, just a quick follow-up question on those other opportunities. What's the best way for folks to find out when those are available? I know you said they're sort of coming, but how can folks find out when those are open or they can interact with them?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, I do have an outreach list, and I sent the grant around directly to the people that are on that list for me. So if you heard about this grant, not from me, I would encourage you to send me your contact, like write to me and say, please add me to your list. That way I'll make sure that you receive future communications. We will put it out on social media and on our website as well, but in case you're not checking those regularly, I can add you to my direct email list. And that your email address won't be shared with anyone. I'll just do a BCC so nobody can see each other's emails.
Great. I think we've captured all the questions that came up in the chat. I don't see any more hands raised. Maybe we'll just give folks one last opportunity in case there's any questions that have come up to you in the meantime.
Great. Well, this is really, I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone's proposals and supporting the work.
Yeah, Haley, go ahead.
Hi, Julia. Hi, Margot. So I'm just curious, I'm just looking at the grading rubric and just thinking about partnership, like the project that we have in mind, wouldn't necessarily have the need for partnership for the initial stage of the project, but I'm just wondering if there's a way, and maybe this is just maybe it makes the most sense when I'm submitting my application to connect with you and talk further about the project. But what am I trying to say? Basically, I'm wondering about submitting our partnerships and collaborations for the project that will basically come as a result of doing the initial project. So we wouldn't necessarily be looking for anyone to contribute in the initial stage, but with the recognition that it's going to benefit partnerships afterwards. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like we've been talking about that in the reviewing process, that we don't want to hold it against an organization if they're just in the early stages of building something, or if they haven't had all this capacity to make those connections. And hopefully, like I would say you're probably in the seeding stage of the food systems transformation model. And there's a case to be made that once you finish that stage, you'll be able to level it out to the community and other collaborators. So I think that's okay.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I am the coordinator for the Haida Gwaii Southern End Food Bank, and we've gone through a lot of change this year. One of the things being that I'm the first staffed position, like it's always been run off the side of people's desks. So right now we're doing a lot. I'm doing just me. We are doing a lot to, you know, put systems in place. And so there just hasn't been that opportunity to build partnerships in a deep way yet. But it's something that we're working on. And I also think like it's atypical to find funding that doesn't require equity, right? And so to go in search of equity just for the sake of saying, look, I found equity, you know, when I could better put that equity to use in a later stage of a project, makes more sense in this case. But I'm also just concerned about it hurting my chances of approval if I don't have direct equity in this stage of a project.
So, I mean, I think if you can think about your audience too, and how you're serving equity in providing food services for people, like probably your audience is pretty diverse too. So that's equity serving based on a user lens.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we can also get in touch and work through it together.
Definitely. Yeah, I'll be reaching out for sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you all. You're all so thoughtful and supportive, and I know everybody's working really, really hard. And I just want to say I appreciate it. I appreciate you all. I see you all, and I hope we can fund everyone. And this will go up online. So if anybody in your team or any of your colleagues, anyone you know was unable to attend, we'll put it up online and people can review it as they need to support their applications. And reach out if you have specific questions. Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.